Okay, it looks like I'm finally able to record in this computer again. So let's get started learning how to color in these characters. If you'll recall, last update I had was showing you how to do the line work. And I will put a link in the description below if you haven't visited that already. Next, it is how to get the colors. Now, first off, I'm just deciding what colors I want, what the right color tones are. Oh, this is a better brush. So this seems like a good overtone color, and this looks like a good undertone color. Then we're going to look at the other colors. I'm looking for complementary colors to this. I might add some gold highlights and purple. The gold and purple look very nice together, so that's what we're going to go with. It'll work with the highlights in her hair. Now, what I like to do is to always cover the entire painting in a gray coat. This is going to be important later when you're doing some more of the fine-tuning work and when you're just playing with opacity and with different layer effects. So I'm just going to kind of go over the whole thing, and then we're going to clean up this gray blob. This is going to offset it from the background, so it'll pop a bit more, even if my colors aren't, especially bright and shiny, which they probably will be in this drawing. So now I'm just kind of going over it, cleaning the lines. This is kind of tedious work, but it really makes it pop. And it doesn't take as long as you would think, especially not when you've had practice at it. A lot of the time I will use the same brush I was drawing with to erase with, but I'll use the eraser one if I want those lines to be especially crisp and clean. And who knows, you can kind of play with that, see what you like, see what works best for the drawing. You can do like use the blur pen to erase and have a interesting effect. Just kind of details to work with, play with, see what your style is. You see that the line work for the hair isn't quite as crisp and clean as the rest of the drawing. This is because I do a lot more with the hair, and I tend to make it a lot softer, and I just kind of ignore most of these lines. These are just guidelines for me. If you want a very crisp, clean hairstyle that's, you know, more consistent with the rest of the picture, you probably want to have your clean line work before you get into this. And you know what I'm not doing right now is different shading, different outlines. It's one solid color. Because this is the one that I'm just making sure it's offset from the background. That's its only purpose. And if you overcomplicate it, it's going to be a bit harder in the long run. You want to make sure there's no white lines like this here, because they will stand out as you get further. Any little bit that's off is going to be noticeable. Might not be noticeable for everybody, but just that extra attention to detail, it makes a difference. Okay. Now the only thing I'm cleaning up is the hair, and like I said, I kind of do things different with the hair. But all the same, I'm going to still keep it clean, give it some guidelines. I think I'm going to erase with this because I want those lines to be a little softer. I'm not too concerned about, you know, those kind of white lines there. I would rather it be more here than less, because that extra is going to kind of indicate frizz or softness, stray hairs, give it some extra body. So going over is better than going under. And that depends on what kind of hairstyle you're going for. I like making mine very soft, very fluffy hair. So this is kind of just to soften it, give it extra texture, extra shape. We're kind of just showing the body of it right now. Kind of adding a little bit more, even when there's not guidelines here, just to kind of fill in where there's extra threads and stuff like that. And again, I just want that extra softness, extra body. So if there's this soft airbrush showing that little extra bit. Okay. Now we have basically I don't like that. This goes on top, this goes on the bottom. I think I'm going to add a little bit of gray here just to kind of indicate the semi-translucent, well, it's not translucent, but it's a much softer, lighter fabric. And that's kind of oh, okay, that's the problem. That's the problem. So this is a much firmer fabric. This is a much softer fabric. This line goes down like this. It kind of like curves up, but you're not going to see that as much. So I kind of want to have some darkness here to indicate that that skirt is still behind this lighter fabric. So that's kind of going to be a bit more prominent when I get in the color work. Yeah, I think I'll just color in that area. I can color in or I can erase this. It's gonna kind of mess with the silhouette, but I think I'm gonna just keep it in, color it in, work with the colors more. Alright, so this is our gray layer. This is the silhouette layer, basically. And because I'm doing line work like this, the lines don't have to be totally crisp. Like, see how rough this is, kind of compared to this. If you weren't going to have line work, you would want to make sure that got all cleaned up, but I'm working with weighted lines, and the line work is very much a part of the aesthetic. If that's not a part of your aesthetic, you'll want to change that now. Let's see, and I'm just gonna give it kind of a background gradient, see where we're at. Oh yeah, and these are my color guides. Gonna put that in front. Make sure that's on a separate layer so you can delete it once you're over. And we will add a little bit more shape to the background. Kinda give it that curve, kind of accent, frame her. Don't know if I like that, but we'll start there. Okay, now here's the important thing about the silhouette. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to press these two buttons. That means I cannot draw outside of this. So now I've got like this very clear, very clean guide. I don't have to worry about going over or cleaning up constantly every time I change the color. So now I am picking this nice color. Make sure it is the right color, it's consistent and everything. I'm going to go in and just kind of draw in on these colors. Now, if you're going to work with layer effects, you might want each color on a different layer. It really depends on what style you're going to go for, how you're going to build, how you're going to expand. I kind of like doing more than just a solid. But we're going to start with the flat colors, the solid, this is what color her dress is, then we're going to shade. I'm going to kind of ignore the hair, because I'm going to draw over it, and I know my hair is often kind of semi-opaque, semi-translucent when I'm drawing it. So I want to have those colors underneath. Coloring in is where you're really going to see the flaws that you might have missed. So if it looks bad after you color it in, don't be too surprised. Just kind of go back and fix stuff up before you do the full render. That's why it's so important to get the flat colors in first. Okay, let's see. I'm really loving this purple. I think it's gonna complement his skin tones very nicely. I think these colors are going to be very complementary. I'm not too worried about overreaching here. I kind of want this whole area to be framed. Because again, the hair is going to be kind of semi-opaque. It's going to be a little bit, you can see through it some. So I want to have those colors underneath. Make sure this is fairly clean, because this is going to be our baseline. I'm going to hit here. I would recommend doing one color at a time. Make sure your colors are actually complementary and that you can do these tweaks here and now. Oh, okay. Do watch if you erase, because you're using this silhouette layer, and if you're like erasing these parts, apparently you won't be able to draw on them again. So like if I erase this and then try and draw it again, you can't, because that's you're stuck with all the layers that you've got already. Or just like, you can only draw on the gray area. And so this is my bad. I'm gonna have to take off these extras to the layer so that I can draw wherever. And I'm going to have to reapply that gray color so that I'll be able to draw on there later. So don't erase, just kind of change the color back. So if this is a bit messy, that's okay. Just make sure you kind of clean it up afterwards. What color did I want her gloves to be? So this is the accent color, because it's bright and everything else is kind of dark. I want that contrast to really shine so that all her highlights really glow. You can see this really does look like it's starting to glow, just because the contrast between the two colors. And that's exactly what I'm going for. I'm not sure if this is too much of the brighter color, or just right. I don't know. We'll look at it once everything else has been colored in. I might change the color of the gloves. Kinda touch up over here. Gonna give those slight indications that's on the bottom too. Again, make sure you're not kind of going over, and that you're fixing it if you do. Yeah, I think I am going to kind of change the colors there. Well, look at that once I get the rest of the colors. What color here is going to complement those two colors? I don't know, does the orange look too loud? It just might be. I'm gonna have to be really careful with the orange highlights, because it can look pretty tacky if I use too much of it, I'm pretty sure. I might add some extra layer effects to give it more of a shimmer kind of blends those two colors together a bit better. And let's see, so behind this, we're going to go kind of a lighter, oops, too light, a lighter version of this color. Kind of like so. Can kind of indicate that here. And we're going to do the same thing for like the back of this dress, kind of like bring it up a little bit, make it a slightly lighter color to indicate that's the inside part of the dress. Then we kind of go here. Kind of blend these two colors together because they're kind of overlapping. I really don't like the purple with the orange now. I think it's too loud. But that's something I'm going to be considering moving forward and kind of working with it. I do want that to shine and have some highlight, but I don't want it to be overpowering or just kind of gaudy, because that's not her personality. And you'll want to kind of look at these colors, whatever colors you choose, and make sure they fit, first of all, the personality of the characters that you're drawing, and second of all, that they fit the overall tone you're going for, and that they just look good together. Because it really is about drawing something pretty and appealing in some way. I mean, you can deliberately make stuff ugly, and that is an artistic expression, but it has to be intentional. So we are intentionally trying to make this look pretty. That fits her character, fits her aesthetic. And kind of add this. I don't want it to look tacky. It's my biggest worry, that these two colors have too much contrast and it's going to be tacky. I don't know, what colors do you think look good with purple? You can drop me some comments, give me some ideas. Overall aesthetic I'm going for is kind of like moon themed, star themed, night themed, but like very, very, I don't know, aesthetic. So I want that kind of contrast. I want it to kind of look like a starry night. Well, go back to the colors as I move on. I have used this color combination before, or like similar color combinations before, and it hasn't turned out too bad. So we'll see. Now don't use a solid white unless you are very intentional about that, because it can look too overpowering. What I'm using here is a softer, close to a white, but actually a tan. Now I am going to use a solid white for her teeth. And look, it's very loud. It's very striking. You want to use the color white with a lot of intentionality, because anything you use white on, it's going to really pop. And if you have too many things that are popping, those colors are going to really compete. So make sure what you use white on, you really want it to stand out. Okay, that's kind of interesting, because this kind of pops out more because there's more white here. So the line work's a bit off, but it's kind of interesting. Kind of gives her face more character. I'm still gonna kind of tone it down a little bit. See how that looks from a distance. Okay, so we've got the overall colors for this, and I'm not gonna really do much with the hair until later. I am going to go ahead and get kind of the base colors for her hair, just so that the gray is not distracting me. Oops. The gray is not distracting me as I'm deciding on color. So I'm just gonna airbrush that. I know she's kind of got some gold highlights here, which are very nice. Let's see, I'm kind of doing this like so. Give it a shine, give it a shimmer. That'll be nice. Anyway, back to this. So a lot of ways you can run with this. You can copy this layer again and click on multiply, and then you'll have your shadows here. Whoa! Very intensely. And then you can kind of erase and make it shine. This is especially if you are going to have a character stand out in a dark environment. This is all about lighting. So this would be like your silhouette lighting. This would be she's in a very dark place and the light is coming, and the light is coming kind of from here on top of her. So that's not quite what I'm going for. So I'm going to erase that. Probably will still copy this layer mask. And that's so that I can still have that safety of not going over my lines, not having to clean this up every time I draw. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of lighten different things, add some different tones. Kind of pick where I want the light and shadow to be. Use this semi-opaque one. Some more texture. This is kind of the overall shape that shadows have when it's like... This is your very basic shadow map. You want something more complicated if you're like doing some really interesting lighting. Just make sure it is consistent. Let's see, I kind of made this inconsistent because I... I did it on this side, and I went and used that side instead. So gotta fix that. Actually, I think the light's coming off this side, so this is the one that's the problem. So I'm gonna give it a rim light here. Fix this one too. Give it a rim light. And, add those features. I'm going to go with this blur brush, kind of blends everything together. You know what, I don't think I want this to be like connected to that layer. I want this to be its own layer that can go over like so. I think I'll just take my chances there. Okay, so this is kind of a burn brush. I'm not sure what effect it'll give. Ooh, that's very nice, actually. I'm pressing very, very lightly. If you don't have a pressure sensitive brush, it's going to look like this, which is not a very nice effect. I do recommend you invest in a pressure sensitive brush if you want to really get into this. But as a beginner, you don't need to. Just know it will affect what this looks like and what you can actually do. So set realistic expectations and find your own way to get around these different issues that you would face. Okay, so the lighting is focused on what is coming toward me, what do I want to pop. Okay, so that is very high contrast. I'm gonna kinda soften it up with this. I don't want to get rid of the texture too much. I do love that texture, but I do want to kind of soften the texture, accent it where it's necessary. At this point, I'm really playing around. I'm just experimenting. So I recommend, you know, trying all those interesting layer features that you haven't tried yet, doing all the stuff you've wanted to play around with, and just kind of getting the feel for it, seeing what you like, seeing what you don't like, seeing what looks good with this character, or whatever character you're working on. I don't like that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put this on an overlay layer. It's a little bit too much. I do recommend you separate the layers, because now you're doing real touch-up work, and the touch-up's going to be kind of different for each little piece. So I'm gonna, and I might be kind of skipping to the part I like instead of doing the whole process properly. Kinda want to give it some texture, some appeal. Overlay does not look nice. Pin light not looking nice. Soft light. That's kind of cool. Let's see if I blend it together like so, and it'll look better. No, I am liking that. That does look nice. I may want to go over the orange with a multiply layer. Eeh, no. That looks even worse. You see, I'm really looking over this as a whole. Yeah, I'm pulling back a lot and, you know, viewing the whole piece and adding stuff. That is something you'll probably want to do. We're looking at how all the pieces connect right now. Does the overall composition look good? Do the colors look good together? What do you want to pop and what do you want to kind of blend together? I am really hating that orange. I'm gonna have to do something with that orange. brush is this? Oh, I haven't used that brush a lot. But I don't think I'm going to use it here either. At least not at the moment. I think what I will do is make sure this is a separate layer. And I'm gonna use a much more high contrast solid paintbrush and kind of go in with some highlights. Kind of blend them together with an airbrush. Still pretty high contrast. I want that kind of brush look. Like it looks like I've brushed it. You can see the paintbrush strokes. So I'm not going to kind of clean that up. I'm just going to leave it like that. Get kind of that comic book feel. I don't know, maybe I want that. Maybe I don't want it to look like this. I might want it to look like that. Except I think I want to blend it just a little bit. Not too much, just barely on the ends. So you can see like, hey, these are some highlights, but also they kind of fit in with the rest of the structure. Let's see, which do I like more? Yeah, I think I like the second one more. And again, this is the time you get to play around. This is my favorite part. It's really experimental and, you know, where you really get to get a feel for what style this picture is going to be, what you want this picture to be. So go ahead and play with different layers and effects and things. See what works for you and what you enjoy. Touch this here. Also want emphasize Maybe I want some higher contrast. Too much. It would be how I would draw it if I want. Kind of a messy, muddy, dark mascara look, but I really don't want that for this character. Still want to have the shade. Just don't want to overemphasize. Not bad. Still can soften the shadows. Nice, that's starting to pop. So we're gonna kind of fool around with the dress and everything, similar way. Okay, so now we've got the basic colors, basic color tones. We're gonna be looking at the hair and the face. Get those details rendered. So I'm gonna find the correct layer. And I'll probably just kind of erase all of the extra hair. I don't know, it'll depend. I tend to put the most work into how the hair looks. That's just my personal thing. So let's see. I'm just gonna make that semi-opaque. Look at this and kind of fill it out. Her hair is a lot more opaque than a lot of other hairstyles I do. So this is going to be kind of new. It's going to be fun. Gonna just kind of go over it. Get that basic color. This is going to be more anime than realistic. Let me get that over the line work. Because this hairstyle is going to go above most of the line work. I do hope I separated the line work for the hair. I might have forgotten to do that. I'm just going to be a little bit extra work. Okay, that's not too bad. So I'm getting it over the normal layers. Gonna kind of clean that up. But this is still mostly guidelines. I'm not gonna actually, because the line work for the hair is still pretty rough. It's because I'm not sure if I'm gonna actually use it or not. So just kind of finish this up. Oops. I'm kind of layering the hair now. Gonna have the back a little bit lighter. Kind of indicate the different what's in the front and what's in the back. Give it some more body, some more shape. Gonna kind of lighten it up where the highlights might be. Then you know the drill. I'm going to make sure this layer, I'm only affecting it. Kinda, what was the other color that I had? I'm gonna make this fully opaque again. Copy this, kind of lighten it a little bit. Should probably name these layers. So I'm just gonna go over it, lighten the edges, give it some highlights. Make sure I'm not overdoing these highlights. I'm going to go back to this layer and I'm going to erase the hair. So let's see. Probably won't mess with the stuff here. It's just kind of a close approximation. Doesn't have to be perfect because I'm kind of covering it all up anyway. Just make sure you know where everything is, what layer it's on. Never mind. I don't want to erase it all. It's gonna be like my guide. Ooh, shiny. Actually, I really like that. That's very shiny. I'm gonna go back, kinda blur around the hair, give it some extra texture, extra body. It's not quite as blobby, but you still get that kind of effect of there is something behind it. Gonna erase the extra with an airbrush so that it's not like too obvious that I erased it. Of course, it depends on what style you're looking for. You might want it to look obvious, but for me, that's not what I'm going for. I want it to kind of glow. Oops. But I also want it to be pretty solid. So I'm going to go over here. This line work is pretty rough, so I'm going to take it and maybe not that color. We'll go with that for now. I'm going to be cleaning it up more as I go along. Gonna copy this layer. Gonna make that a normal layer because I don't want this to be too overpowering. Gonna kinda erase around it. Oops. You can see I'm just trying to give the hair some extra body, follow the lines. I'm just kind of scoping out the shape. Her hair is a texture I usually don't do because it's so thick and so full of volume. I usually don't do braids. This is kind of like braids, but not really, because I don't want to do braids. It's so much work to draw. And I'm going to be like drawing this character over and over again because I will probably animate her. And if I don't, she's going to be in like a comic or something. So if I were just drawing her one time, I would probably actually detail some braids, but not in figuring out how to draw her quickly. And I'm just kind of following along all the different shapes within the hair, making sure I'm emphasizing those curves. This is all very rough, very loose. Don't pressure yourself to do it too good the first time, because we're really just figuring out where to put the highlights. Definitely more on the end. I think her hair kind of glows. Her highlights are going to be kind of like fiery, like star sapphire. Can give it some extra hairs around here, some extra body. Just kind of have the stray hairs to add some extra texture. Just kind of giving me more of the guidelines, making it look more wild. Here, just kind of showing the messiness of it. Then we gotta smooth out some of these lines here. Make it look more silky. probably should not have had the stray hairs in the same layers as the highlights. It gives me less I can do with them, unless I want to draw them all over. Which wouldn't be the end of the world if I have to. But that is something I'll take note of, so that next time I draw her, I won't actually put the stray hairs on the same layer as her highlights. Kind of streamline my workflow a little bit better. Let's see how that looks. I'm checking it from a distance to make sure, you know, that it looks good overall, even if it looks good just like in detail close up. That doesn't mean it's going to look good when you pull out. So you want to regularly check. You kind of want both to look good, but leaning towards, you know, when you pull out, does it look nice? Because that means it's not too cluttered visually. If your details, all of them, are so high grade, then when you pull back, it's going to look all cluttered. So you want to really prioritize what details you want to be very high grade and which ones you want to kind of slip into the background to kind of accentuate the details you really want. Okay, this is looking pretty shiny. We won't need this as much. I'm gonna go over and draw a fresh set of cleaner guides. Oh, that's really cool like that. Yeah, no, it needs some guidelines. I'm gonna use a dark brown. What I'm looking at now is just like making those guidelines, those thick and thin line work. Accentuate the body, the flow of motion, the different dynamics. Make sure it's looking good. Because again, this hair is a lot more solid than a lot of the hair I typically draw. Which means I won't be blurring it as much, so I'll have to be extra careful that my lines are nice and clean. I think it's a universal that people who draw while they talk make humming noises while they draw. Because all my friends do that too. I'm not sure why I'm humming. Can I get those lines? Let's see how that's looking. Oh yeah, that's pretty nice. It's not horrible. Kind of has some curl to it. Kind of the shape there. I don't really know what I'm doing. We're just kind of gonna go with that. It's looking a bit too stiff. It's definitely not my normal hairstyling for characters. Usually I don't have to draw any extra guidelines because it's like so fluffy and not solid. But this is different. This is a different hairstyle. It's awkward. Like, I'm loving it, but it's also, I keep wanting to change how I'm drawing it because it's just not how I normally draw stuff. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's very comic book-ish. This is very comic book styled. The lines being so bold. I'm not sure if I like it. I may have to go back and draw each individual lock of hair. Each main lock of hair. It's like the body of the hair needs some more thickness, some more shade. Yeah. Some lighter threads of hair in there. Add some extra guys. Give this a bit more thickness. Just kind of give it some extra shadow right at the roots. See if that helps any. No. No extra shadow at the roots. Not with the line work, at least. Okay, that's not bad. That's kind of cool. Okay, but the messiness of the hair. I'm gonna finally go around and clean that up a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go over this a couple more times. Lesson learned. I do not need all that extra body when it comes to this type of hair. I'm gonna have to come back and redraw all this stuff. Look at how messy these lines are. Yeah, so it's gonna be a lot of detail rendering. Oh, that's better. I'll go with that for a while. Gonna come back here. There we go, that's exactly what I need to fix. Don't need this anymore. Clean up that line work again, or fill it in properly. Kind of giving it a quick sweep. Nothing too special. Because I'm going to come back and kind of recolor it again. So let's see. I'm going to put on the lock for this hair again. Gonna do a gradient of those highlights. Oh yeah, that's looking much better. Gonna give it a gold at the end. Throw in a little bit of, oops. I was saying I want this to have a nice gradient. Yeah. So I'm using the lasso tool. No, it's not quite perfect. It's a little bit messy. I'm going to go back and clean it up again. Oops. see if I can just kind of smooth it out. There we go, that's better. Yeah, nope. Just kind of give it a touch of gold right over there. Much better. Kind of do a little bit of airbrushing. Make sure I'm adding some texture. Making those highlights really pop. Oh, I like the white on the ends. Okay, it's very nice. But the rest of it's gonna need to be brown. So I'm just gonna kind of have the layer of the white and the gold. Very nice. Okay. Oh yeah, those are my original guidelines. Don't need those anymore. Let me go to yikes. Okay. It's very nice. High contrast. Now I'm just playing around. Let's see, what was this originally? I definitely need a multiply layer. But I don't think it's going to be that one. Ooh, that does look very nice. Okay, just needs a little bit more touch up. Give it a burning flare here. Lines are too messy. Okay. Just gonna kind of go over here. Oops. Soften these lines here. See if that doesn't help. There's no real science to it. I'm just kind of eyeballing things and, you know, touching up. We won't need that anymore. This won't need much of. Soften that there. I can kind of erase that. Most of this should go. Just gonna kind of add a couple highlights. This is where the stray hairs are. Can kind of be erased. This is a bit too much. This part here can be smoothed out a little bit. It's a bit too much. Okay, and now beneath the hair, I'm going to kind of add some shadows just for the face, just to kind of emphasize these two parts are connected. Okay, some of this needs to get erased. We'll add those extra details later. Okay. We need to clean up these shadows. Don't want to overemphasize. Just want to give it some touches. I think that works with the hair pretty well. Then we'll need to go to the eyes and all the extra details. That'll be in the next video. Bye-bye!